I read 70 books in 2022, and over half of them were romance novels. Since so many people set reading goals for themselves in the new year, I wanted to share the 8 best romance novels that I read this year that you need to read in 2023. I really wanted to make this video not only because I love to talk about books, but also because I've always been a little bit embarrassed by my love for romance novels, like it's something to be ashamed of. I'm really trying to get over this. I think it's silly, and the things that bring you joy are never things that you should be embarrassed about. So I hope that you read at least one of these books, and if you have any recommendations for me, please let me know. The first book I want to talk about is The View Was Exhausting. You know, this is actually one of the last books that I read in 2022, but it's actually, I think, one of my favorite books of the year. The View Is Exhausting was like normal people if it was written about celebrities fake dating for a PR stunt. The book follows Win and Leo, 2 celebrities who have been fake dating on and off for over 5 years whenever they have like a publicity crisis. But because they spend so much time together over the years, things get a little iffy and it becomes unclear where they're faking their feelings and where they're not. The tension throughout this book is just always so high. I feel like it's a constant roller coaster of emotions. I read this book so fast. I read it over 48 hours. I honestly probably would have read it even sooner, except that like Christmas happened while I was reading this book, so I had to put it down, but I can guarantee you won't be able to put it down. Okay, so the next book I want to talk about is Icebreaker, which you might have seen all over TikTok like I did, and oh my god, thank god I found it on TikTok. I don't know what I would have done without it. Icebreaker is a love story between a commitment-phobe ice skater and a golden retriever type hockey player. You know, I don't actually read a lot of sports romances. I think that they typically, at least in my experience, are really heteronormative, and the men are usually pretty hyper-masculine in a way that isn't very appealing to me. But that isn't true with Icebreaker. The characters feel really real and not just like stereotype caricatures of athletes. This book also really thoughtfully addressed disordered eating in a way that I'm appreciative of. I don't know, this is just like a fun, sweet time reading this book. If you're just looking for something to like put a smile on your face, I feel like Icebreaker is the way to go. One of my favorite types of books are ones where the main characters are reuniting after, you know, years or decades apart. Every Summer After follows 2 best friends who spent every summer together throughout their like teen years and then had some sort of mysterious falling out. Percy and Sam haven't seen each other in almost a decade, I think, but when Sam's mother dies, Percy returns to the lake house, and they have one weekend to sort out their issues and in the process for us as readers to learn about their past. This book is nostalgic and warm, but also discusses the way that your past actions and mistakes follow you and how hard it is to forgive yourself. It's really marketed as a beach read, and while I agree with that, it's definitely a beach read that packs a real emotional punch, which I really liked. From the Jump was a book that I have to say I wrote off when I started it, but definitely moved me a lot, and that's why it's such a nice surprise that not only did I love it so much, but that it's on this list in general. It follows Liv, who's very straight edge, a responsible person who has really sheltered herself throughout life, and because of that excluded herself from not only opportunities but also from her friend group, which is really like the most important thing in her life. And when the friend group's annual trip comes up, which she typically never goes on, she takes the chance and finally goes for the first time. This sets off a series of events of showing Liv that she can live life a different way than she had been. And when her feelings for a member of this friend group really start to develop, Liv has to decide whether she's going to take a chance and risk her friend group entirely, or, you know, take a chance on that relationship. While this is a romance, it's also a book about a woman who is discovering herself for the first time in her life, really. This next book follows a similar vein of self-love / self-discovery. One Night on an Island follows Cleo, who is about to turn 30 and is kind of forced by her boss to take a vacation. So Cleo goes to a remote Irish island in order to get some writing done. However, there is a mix-up, and Mac, a photographer who's also kind of on his like soul-searching journey, also books this cabin. And because they are on a remote island, there isn't, you know, a lot of extra lodging, and the ferry only comes once a week. So Cleo and Mac have to share this cabin together until one of them can leave the island. The two are stuck together in this cabin, forced to make it work until the next ferry comes. And as the days go on, let's just say making it work isn't as hard as they thought it would be. One of my favorite aspects of this book is the emphasis on Cleo's relationship with herself. You know, she's turning 30 and kind of reckoning with the fact that she's not exactly where she thought she would be at 30, which I think is a very relatable experience. And she's coming to the understanding that that is okay. I want to be very clear about something. I believe that everything Katie Cotugno touches is gold, okay? And Birds of California is no different. The book follows Fiona, this former child star of a very popular sitcom called Birds of California. Think like Full House, Even Stevens type vibe. However, when Fiona became a teenager, she went through a pretty intense wild child phase that was heavily documented by the press. Fast forward to now, Fiona lives under the radar. She has a very normal, non-celebrity life. She hides from the public. She is not trying to be a part of Hollywood at all. However, Birds of California is potentially being rebooted, but only if Fiona is willing to do it. Former co-star Sam is still a struggling actor and will do anything he needs to make this reboot happen. Even if that means cozying up with Fiona to convince her to come back to Hollywood. Things get complicated, lines get blurry, feelings get hurt, and I enjoyed every minute of it. There's something so fun about reading books about people writing books. Before their mysterious blow-up, Karina and Nathan were this powerhouse writing duo, but they don't talk anymore. After their second book became really popular, something happened that ended both their working relationship and their friendship. But they have one final book left on their contract, so they rent a house and spend 6 weeks writing together. It's awkward and tense, but it drags up their juicy past in this way that is just so fun for the reader. It really feels like you're a fly on the wall throughout the entire thing, which I really, really appreciated. Spoiler alert is another book that I think I really underestimated, but really blew me out of the water. Is that even a saying? The book follows Marcus, a famous actor on a popular fantasy show, think Game of Thrones, but who secretly writes fanfic about the show. Similarly, April, who isn't famous in any way, writes fanfic on her own. However, she also hides it from everybody in her personal life. One day, April posts her cosplay online and goes viral, which leads to her and Marcus meeting for the show's like publicity PR campaign. This is the start of their romance that is really only complicated by the secrets that they feel they both need to keep. Besides being charming and fun, the book also dives deeply into April's experience with fat phobia in a way that is thoughtful and thought-provoking, as well as Marcus's experience with dyslexia and what it is like to have a learning difference. Just to be clear, even though this is the last book that I'm talking about in this video, that in no way reflects the way that I feel about this book, because every single book in this video has a very special place in my heart and none of them are ranked whatsoever. I hope that you read one or all of these books, or really read anything, because reading is great. Again, I would love your recommendations, romance or otherwise. I'm always looking for new things to read. Thank you so much for watching this video. Happy reading!